with another Nomadic Cole video. This is going to be an interesting video. It's going up on YouTube. I apologize if you hear some meowing in the background. I do have a cat, but you're going to have to deal with that, unfortunately. But new crib, as I explained last time, a new place. And it's going to be interesting. We're trying out some live streaming. Hopefully this live stream isn't breaking up, but I think my hotspot is working just fine at the moment. So guys, if you guys watch this video and you guys enjoy it, be sure you guys leave a like, leave a comment, share, and subscribe. And maybe we'll look at making some more religious content in the future, or content that talks about religion. So let's get straight into the theme of this video, shall we? This topic, ladies and gentlemen, is called, Will the Rapture Happen? Now, I know many of my followers are Christian, so be warned. There may be some talking about Christianity and maybe some touchy subjects. So if that's not your thing, I would suggest leave the video. But if it is your thing, then you are in the right place. Let's get right into it, shall we? Now, will the rapture happen? Specifically, will the rapture happen on the April 8th? The April 8th. The April 8th, 2024 eclipse. Now, this is something that's been going around online in online circles, I've noticed. Something that I think is a little strange. But you know how TikTok and the internet works. People like to go around and make conspiracy theories because their lives aren't very interesting. And they got to have something interesting to talk about to make some sort of content to talk to their followers about. And unfortunately, that seems to come with making conspiracy theories and freaking people out, which is kind of sad. It's kind of not good skip, if you ask me. But hey, some people just want to make content, I guess. It's pretty weird, pretty strange. But boy, do we have a topic for you. It is, will the rapture happen? So let's get into it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, first, I want to read you something from the Bible. And this should basically be one of the first and easiest ways to debunk these April 8th, 2024 rapture claims. Let's go straight into it, shall we? Let's look. Where is it? Yes. Matthew. The book of Matthew. Let us find our verse, because I do have a Bible with me. Trying to be using some biblical evidence against this first. This right here in Matthew 24, 26, the day and the hour unknown. This is a famous one. No one knows that day nor hour, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father, as it was in the days of Noah. So it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. Now, for those who believe in the rapture and who try to predict when the rapture will happen, put that in quotes, read Matthew, the quote that I just said, because it will tell you that you do not know when the coming of the Son of Man will be. So that is my first piece of evidence against it, against these rapture claims, these conspiracy theories trying to freak people out and mislead people over this. Now, that is the first piece of evidence. Another piece of evidence that I want to use against this is also from the Bible, but what is not in the Bible. The fact is, the Bible never mentions the word rapture. That's right, the Bible never mentions the word rapture. Now, I think if a rapture was actually going to happen, and if it was prophesied by the Bible, would it not be prophesied by using the correct terminology in the word rapture instead of alluding to a rapture in certain texts, which oftentimes are just texts out of context? I think you would not be deceived by a book that is supposed to be a holy book, right? That is just my thoughts on that. And you would hear the word rapture at some point throughout the Bible, but it never occurs. And for another piece of biblical evidence, I want to come here to the Thessalonians. Actually, First Thessalonians, one of the letters of Paul. And it talks about the coming of the Lord. Of course, rapture believers should know this quote by heart, but it says, "Brothers, we do not want you to be ignorant about those who fall asleep, or to grieve like the rest of men who have no hope. We believe that Jesus died and rose again, and so we believe that God will bring with Jesus those who have fallen asleep in him. According to the Lord's own words, we tell you that we are still alive, who are left till the coming of the Lord, will certainly not precede those who have fallen asleep. For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. After that, God and the dead in Christ will rise first." Wait, my bad. I read the line again. That the dead in Christ will rise first. After that, we emphasize on the we who are still alive, which means he's talking about himself and Paul himself and his followers who are still alive and left, will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And so we will be with the Lord forever. Now, if you read about the rapture, or if you listen to what these people will say, this is clearly not talking about some sort of this is clearly not talking about the Christians going up first. This is talking about God taking up those who have fallen asleep, and that Paul and his followers will stay down, and they will go up to meet the Lord in the air. And if you read this in context, of course, you'll understand that they're talking about a sort of spiritual battle in which Jesus is supposed to return in a second coming, but Jesus is returning with the Christians who will bring Jesus down and fight a spiritual battle. So it seems. Now, people might say, well, how do you know about this? Where's your source for this information? Well, I may not be the most uh, accomplished reader of the Bible, or uh, the smartest person to answer for you guys. However, I have a source who is very smart and who is very intelligent, someone who has studied the Bible for over 15 years, including has been able to translate the Bible from its original Greek and Aramaic and Hebrew writings. A professor from the Moody Bible Institute, I bring you Professor Bart Ehrman.
Well, the term rapture never occurs in the book of Revelation. And to everybody's great surprise, the concept is never found in the book of Revelation. The rapture is the doctrine that you find in fundamentalist and some conservative evangelical circles, that Jesus is coming back from heaven to take his followers out of the world before a 7-year period of tribulation, horrible suffering here on earth. But the followers of Jesus will not have to experience it because they'll be taken out. And that's called the rapture. That is a doctrine that, even though many millions and millions of Christians believe it, and they just assume it's in the Bible, but it's not. It's the first time somebody came up with the idea of this rapture before the tribulation on earth was in the 1830s. So throughout all of Christian history, nobody even thought of this one until modern times.
Wow, because there's the story, and well, this is actual history, but there's the story about in the year 1000, Pope Sylvester II was based off the book of Revelation, where it talks about the Satan being chained for 1,000 years, and after the 1,000-year reign is over, he's going to come back. And so you mean to tell me that during this time, people weren't waiting for a rapture; they're waiting for something else, some sort of war breakout.
The book of Revelation does say that Jesus is coming back, and this is a view that Paul has as well. It's a New Testament view. When Jesus comes back, he's coming to destroy his enemies. He's not coming back to take Christians out of the world. And so you get this, even in the New Testament, people turn to certain passages that appear to them to be references to the rapture. These were, when I was an evangelical Christian, we just believed that that's what these passages were saying. The most famous is in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 13 to 18, which says that when Christ returns, the dead in Christ will rise first, and then we who are alive, who are left at the time, says Paul, seems to be including himself among those who will be alive, when we who are left are alive, will be taken up with them to meet the Lord in the air. And wow, okay, that's the rapture, right? Yeah, it sounds like that when you take it out of its context. But what people fail to notice is that right after he says this, he continues with the same thought. And it's a little bit hard in English Bibles, because in English Bibles, chapter 5 is separated from chapter 4. And so you think he's done talking now. But when Paul wrote, he didn't have chapters. He wasn't writing in chapters. He just wrote the next sentence. And when you start reading the next sentences, it's clear he's not talking about Jesus coming to take people out of the world in order to prevent them from being destroyed. He's coming to destroy his enemies. And when he destroys his enemies, the dead, those who are in Christ, whether dead or alive, will go and meet the Lord in the air. They're not going to live up in the air. They're meeting him there to bring him back down to earth. The way we know that is because the language that Paul uses is the language that you get in ancient texts to talk about what happens when a king comes to your city. You know in advance he's coming. When he comes, you send out the elders of the church, of the city, the leaders of the city, the rulers of the city. They go out to meet him, and then they escort him back in. That's the parousia, the coming or the presence of the king. And this is what the Christians are going to do. They're going to go out and welcome their king, and then bring him back to rule. And so it's not that they're going to be taken to heaven for 7 years while all hell breaks out on earth. That's a later development from, as I said, from the 19th century.
So if you listen to what Bart Ehrman said, he said that essentially that these evangelicals seem to have got it wrong, and that this is a later development from the 19th century. Now, according to some information that I have heard, is that original ideas of linking the book of Revelations itself to current events actually came around the the 17th century, the late 17th century, with the French Revolution, where people, certain Christian sects began drawing parallels over. However, the rapture really seemed to have caught on at some point. The rapture seemed to have caught on during the 1830s, and even became more popularized with the book series, the Left Behind series, which is pretty much a series written by evangelical megachurch pastor trying to convert people over out of fear, of course, which is kind of sad. We also know that these teachings are not traditionally taught by the Catholic Church or taught by Judaism, the teachings of a rapture as well, which is something that people should keep in mind, if you ask me. I don't know about you, but I think it is something that we should keep in mind. We also know that, as stated in Mark 13, it says the exact timing of Christ's return remains unknown. So, again, somewhat as stated in the book of Matthew, it says that Christ's return remains unknown. So we cannot use the words of some guys on TikTok to try to convince us that a rapture of sorts is coming on April 8th. Now let's get to the April 8th specific theories real quick, and then we will do some stuff regarding some more stuff regarding Revelation. Now, one of the rumors going around about the eclipse coming on April 8th, this lunar eclipse. One of the things that is talked about is that this lunar eclipse is supposed to cover the entire world somehow. Not exactly how an eclipse works, and that it will shroud the earth in darkness for 5 days. Unfortunately, that's not true. It's not going to shroud Rapture, Indiana, as some people will say, that it will shroud it for 5 days or whatever. Instead, right here it says that Rapture, Indiana will see a total eclipse for 3 minutes and 51.3 seconds of totality in the eclipse. Another claim is that the totality of the lunar eclipse, the places where you will see a total lunar eclipse over America on this sort of map, a map that has been mapped out, will hit 7 cities called Nineveh. Now, if you don't know the significance of Nineveh, Nineveh is from the book of Jonah. Now, summarized, the book of Jonah talks about Nineveh as a place that Jonah is supposed to destroy. Of course, we know that Jonah doesn't get around to doing that, as he is swallowed by a whale before that, or as the Christian Bible puts it, a large fish. Strange how God doesn't understand the difference between a fish and a whale. It couldn't have been a fish that large because, unfortunately, whale sharks are not native to the Mediterranean Sea. Just putting that bluntly out there. So I think that is a little strange. had to have been a whale, which seems to be the common translation nowadays. Most people don't say large fish anymore. Most people say whale. That's just something that you can kind of bicker about in the comments if you would like. But I think that it is interesting why it is often in the Bible said as a large fish, but everyone else seems to jump to the conclusion that it is a whale. Pretty interesting. However, back to the point of the 7 cities called Nineveh. Jonah never destroyed Nineveh, by the way. Onto the 7 cities of Nineveh. Actually, only 2 of these cities will be in the pathway of totality of eclipse. 2 towns called Nineveh, not 7. The rest will see partial eclipse, like majority of Mexico, Canada, and the United States will also see partial eclipse. Even Hawaii and Alaska are likely to see partial eclipse as well. Excuse me. So there's that as well, just being put out there. So again, seems like the conspiracies are pretty easily debunked. Now, on to the book of Revelations. A lot of people will look at the book of Revelations, especially the evangelical fundamentalist Christians will look at the book of Revelations and take this as some sort of prophecy. Well, let's just do a quick Google search right here. Well, here's the thing about the book of Revelation. The book of Revelation is a letter. It is a letter from John the Elder, also known as John of what is the island called? Of Patmos. That's right. John of Patmos, the island. It is a book about John's experiences and what he saw in a revelation or some sort of a dreamlike state where he saw many interesting things, to say the least. A lot of poetry is in the book. A lot of metaphors are used. A lot of lines drawn with the number 7 and the number 6 as well. However, none of these prophecies are yet to be fulfilled. None of these seals are yet broken, as stated in the book of Revelations. Which you'd think 2,000 years later, or almost 2,000 years later, you'd have at least one of these seals or so broken. There's compares and contrasts drawn, but we never see any sort of concrete evidence showing that these seals are being broken, which is definitely something that is interesting. And I think it's something that we can say maybe this isn't it, maybe this isn't some sort of prophecy. No, of course it's not. It's a letter from an angry man on an island to the church who is angry at some of the things going on in the church. Okay, we're going to put it that simple. Now, there's a lot of imagery being used. Something that we can talk about. Something that we can talk about John on the island of Patmos is that the island of Patmos, the main being, first of all, he's secluded on an island, ladies and gentlemen. He's secluded by himself on this island, pretty much, writing his experiences. He's angry at the church. He's highly religious, highly fundamentalist. He's apocalyptic. He's an apocalyptic Jew. And not only that, but here's his diet. He is eating fish, many of which fish contain high levels of mercury, known to make people mad as a hatter. But he is also eating ergot grains. Now, here's the interesting thing about ergot grains. Ergot grains, when they get moldy, have a hallucinogenic-like effect. So, there is a popular theory out there, especially among skeptics and scholars of the Book of Revelation, who believe that John of Patmos was simply tripping balls off mercury and moldy ergot, which I happen to believe as well, just given that, given what he was eating on the island and what is native to that area, and his situation and the larger context around this apocalyptic novel that he writes, and that was thrown at the end of the Bible in the 4th century. He wrote this book over 100 years after the death of Jesus. He wrote this book 100 years after the death of Jesus, or letter, I should say. A very long, lengthy letter, I should say. But it does not become a part of the Christian canon until really part of the Bible until the 4th century, or 400 years, or a little over 400 years after the death of Jesus. Another thing that we can also know about the Book of Revelation is this book is very strange. It's confusing to a lot of Christians, especially new Christians that are, wonder what's this at the end of the good book? What's this book behind here? And it catches a lot of people off guard, because there's a lot of poetry, a lot of imagery, a lot of strange things being talked about in this book. It's a strangely written book, But I think the thing that is interesting about this book, another thing that is on a larger scale, is that this is not the only book that was ever written like this. There is a series of books written by other apocalyptic Jews, and these books are called apocalypses, and they basically depict terrible things, often written in anger at churches or people they did not like, warning people about danger up ahead. And they're kind of written in a very similar style, and archaeologists have discovered other apocalypses as well. Now, if there are others, why did the other apocalypses not end up in the Bible? It's interesting and strange why they did not. However, we do know the Bible is made up of two major books. You have the Old Testament, mainly followed by the Jewish church, but also seems to be kind of a backstory and canon for Christianity. And then you have the New Testament, which is exclusively followed by Christianity. Basically, the New Testament is about the good news for Christians. So I think it's interesting. It's something that we should definitely look into. I would definitely want to check more with Dr. Bart Ehrman about why the other apocalypses were not added into the Christian canon. I think it's something that's interesting that we can look at. And all in all, I think that Revelation is just another one of those apocalypses written by a guy tripping on ergot bread and mercury on the island of Patmos, who was very secluded, very religious, and very angry at the church and Christian persecutions at the time. Now, for my Christian followers here, people who are Christians and don't think that this will somehow destroy their theology, listen, there are still Christians who do not believe in a rapture, quote unquote. For example, the amillennial Christians, the Catholic Church, and Christian deists. And a quote from a famous Christian deist to finish this off. But before that, I want to say that it is entirely possible that you can be Christian and not believe in any sort of rapture. It is perfectly fine and normal. In fact, I would say you are more sane than the evangelical fundamentalist who believes in every single thing that is written down in this book. Because that is not really going through it with a fine-tooth comb and doing your own research. However, I want to bring up an important quote from a famous Christian deist. And this famous Christian deist is our third president and founding father of this great nation of the United States of America, Thomas Jefferson. And I will use this to conclude. Thomas Jefferson quote: "It is between 50 and 60 years since I've read it, the book of Revelations. And I then considered it merely the ravings of a maniac, no more worthy nor capable of explanation than the incoherence of our own nightly dreams." So, with that being said, let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Do you guys believe in the rapture? Do you not? Tell me about your own experiences with Christianity, with religion, etc. down below. And tell me what you think. And if you liked the video, leave a like, leave a comment, share, and subscribe for more. Thank you guys for watching. This is the Nomadic Cole signing